Welcome to AI Strategy for CMOs. Hey everybody, I am Action Jackson and I am bringing to this screen three of my best buddies. We've got Mike, we've got Vance, we've got Scott, and this is AI Strategy for CMOs. Say hello everybody.
Hello
everybody. Hi everyone.
Yeah, so we probably only have two people, but that doesn't matter. It means that we're starting this off right. One of the things that we were really most excited about is being able to talk about, what is AI? What is AI strategy? And there's nobody that I would know that would actually be able to speak to this than an agency person, a creative person, a business person, the hypothesis man. So Vance, you're the hypothesis man. You're always working with that. Explain, kind of give your background and why you're on this show called AI Strategy for CMOs.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's, mostly because you invited me and I had an opening in my schedule. So why not, right?
There you go. Yeah, that's right.
I'm Vance and I'm the CEO founder of JunctionAI. And what we do is we're looking at how we can use AI as a tool, AI machine learning in particular, as a tool to enhance what marketing and advertisers are doing by analyzing creative and really seeing how we can help them understand how to optimize and get the insights they need to drive much better return on their advertising and marketing spend, better e-commerce shopping cart basket pricing or what's going to make people engage more, click through, take the action that we want them to take, be loyal and come back. So, marketers have a pile of data, so there's a lot of great opportunity there for them.
Yeah, and so the next person I'd love to kind of bring into this conversation is the agency man. So Mike, I'd love for you to introduce yourself and kind of say your background and why you're in this whole AI strategy for CMOs.
Hey everybody, I'm Mike and I run a company called To Be Continued right now, but I have been on the client side as a marketing manager at AT&T, dealing with one of the biggest data machines in the world. Moved to the agency side, learned the credit card business, the automotive business, packaged goods, technology, always playing with data there, and then went to the entertainment world, which didn't know what data was, use it. And now putting it all together, I think, is fantastic. And this AI, it tells us AI is because I think we've been doing it longer than we think.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think we have been doing AI, just didn't think about it. But as we go into this too, last but definitely not least, I'd like to bring into the conversation is Scott. So Scott, introduce yourself and tell everybody what you're about and why you're here.
Yeah, my name is Scott Taylor. I'm a partner at Blue Skies Ventures. And really, I'm just an old veteran entrepreneur. So I've seen a lot of things come and go. And as an investor, big part of the spend is around marketing. And, if I can mitigate my risk, if I can mitigate all the reasons why I'm going in the wrong direction and steer me in the right direction and all the money in the right direction, that's important to investors. It's important to the function of a business. And, I met Vance. This is a wild frontier, man. And there's a lot to do. And when you start to look at data, you start taking the guesswork out of a lot of these things. And that really interests me.
And so that's really where the whole point of this is talking about artificial intelligence and the strategy around it, especially targeting someone that's normally the creative, the one that has to think outside the box, this chief marketing officer. But before we get into all of that, this is something that we all were talking about before the show. What is artificial intelligence to you? I know that all opinions may vary for different people, but for you, so the hypothesis man, there, Vance, what is artificial intelligence to you?
It's a question that we get a lot, and there's a lot of people have a lot of views on it. Artificial intelligence is this, it's a very broad field of science. There's a lot in there, but what we're talking about in particular is really AI machine learning, and that's the ability for a machine to learn from data to make predictions, to enhance what we're doing from a human point of view, so we can apply our judgment for decision making. But, we want that machine to act like a human and look at data and come up with relationships and at a level that's just scalability beyond what humans could do. We can't hire enough data scientists or people to sit there and check every relationship between every data point. So AI for me that can enhance my ability or my client's ability to analyze that data and get those predictions they need to advance their business.
You know, I feel a little envious of you, Vance. So you're actually doing this from the beautiful Costa Rica. Is that correct?
True, it's true. Yeah, I've been isolating here.
You're just gonna rub it in her face that you're there. That's great though. No tan. You've just been working nonstop.
I just work too much, Gary. I'm always behind the computer. If it isn't a blue light tan, I don't know what I've got.
So now, Mike, you've been on the agency side for a long time, and on the creative side, what is artificial intelligence from your perspective?
To me, our AI is more about the automation of modeling, the looking at data, the variables that we have, but automating it so we get the understanding quicker, more frequently, and with greater insights. And what I like is it's evolved beyond traditional data points into creativity and what creative works best. And that's the beauty of having so many different variables we can measure these days, and getting reports, be it from social media, from digital marketing, from sales, and bringing all that together. And the more data we bring together, the more learning we can get. And as Vance said, the machines help us learn that, help us automate that. They help us understand things quicker, so that way we can make creative decisions and have creative inspiration that works, far, far, stronger than we could just going on our own gut instinct before.
But isn't that kind of counterintuitive? You are from an agency perspective. I've always thought, watching Mad Men and seeing, that's where the creatives live. So now you're saying machines with creative. How do you make sure that they can coexist without killing each other?
I don't think I said machines were creative. I think the machines allow us to give a tighter marketing brief. They allow us to guide our creatives and give them tighter lanes in which to work, so their creativity can be more focused on the things that will have impact for the consumer and for the brand.
Yeah. Right. So, and that brings up, how do you drive business this way? And so there's nobody better I think of than our business guy, Scott. So how would you drive business with artificial intelligence? How does artificial intelligence come into this from a business perspective, Scott?
Well, the quicker we can get up to speed investing in, spending efficient media buying, the quicker we can start selling products and making money. I mean, I think that agencies and the brands have all been kind of used to the fact that the first 90 days to 6 months is going to be testing the marketplace out. And so if we have an opportunity to shrink that kind of wasted spend from 6 months to 3 months to 30 days. So before we even get out spending money, we've got these bumpers along the creative side. And frankly, I think you're not doing your fiduciary responsibility if you're allowing somebody to spend a bunch of money with reckless abandon. It's kind of like, creative people are no shortage of ideas, right? That's what they're getting paid for. I would just rather them to create the ideas that are going to help me sell something and help us make money and generate revenue and get to profitability quicker. So if I've got an opportunity to, as I said before, mitigate that risk and not take the creativity away from the designers. I mean, I think there's a misnomer about that. I think what we're saying is this consumer wants to see this more. So get creative in that room, in that space with that type of guidance, and then go have at it, do whatever you want. So for me, it's pretty black and white. If you're not looking at AI right now, if you're not deploying it and you're testing it right now and finding the platform that works best for your business, then it's the kind of reckless abandon that I'm not interested in participating in. So it's pretty black and white for me.
Well, I have to agree. I think one of the things that I think but I do want to make sure that people understand from my perspective, just being from, consulting, I'm the person that actually has to implement and make sure everything kind of happens, right? So it's got to make sure that you're not just doing AI to be doing AI. Big data was a big term. And everybody says, oh, you got to do big data. And then there's data science. You got to hire data scientists. AI is one of those things where you have to have artificial intelligence requires emotional intelligence. If you have a staff or a culture that doesn't allow, they love repeating the same things over and over and over again, then it may not be for you. But if you have a really creative staff that wants to kind of break boxes and break their chains and do something totally different, I think the AI is perfect for you. But that's just my perspective from an implementation, and making sure that it works.
Point of view, it's really critically important that you have use cases that you can define, that are agreed upon at a senior level, and that can be measured, and you know when you've achieved results. But those use cases have to be sufficient enough as well that they can move the needle on the business. They can't be too much hide away in the innovation department for a little task, because we know that it'll probably just stay. But we need, it's got to be something that can make the business perform better and respond to those KPIs, because then you're going to get that ability to show success for it. One of the things we see all the time with senior marketers and executives and marketers is that they need that proof. They're always battling against, the other executives or others looking for them to prove what they're doing is adding value. It's adding people to, engagement or followers or more sales, whatever it is. So we always want to look at how we can enhance that and improve that. And, it's definitely a good tool for that if we employ it right and, have the right use cases.
Yeah, I think what's really important about what we're trying to do with this show, that we hope to start really launching this on the 4th of February, which is next Thursday, is we want to gather questions from you. All of you, from the marketing side, the advertising, the creative, the agency side. We want to be able to gather those questions together and be able to answer them. And that would be the goal is every Thursday, being able to do this AI strategy for CMOs. And you don't have to be a CMO to do this. We just want to make sure that people are not so afraid to embrace. And I have to be honest, I think COVID has been a perfect time to embrace change, because we've been forced to. So why not just embrace a little bit more? And that's kind of really what the goal of this program for.
And it was a time, I think Vance would recognize, it's a time to gather more data quicker, because everybody was in front of their computers like 24/7 at home. So, on the advertising side, the agency side, you got to test quicker almost. You had more data to input to then come up with some. Would you agree with that, Vance, that there was more looking online?
And the difference we've seen in the data, from pre-COVID to post-COVID, and as we rolled through spring, last year in spring, and then we rolled through summer and we rolled through autumn, we could see dramatic differences in what the data was telling us about advertising and creative strategies. And these things are dynamic. It's not static. You can't put these things on autopilot and think, oh, you've got your pandemic advertising strategy sorted, let's just run for the next 3-6 months. We were seeing massive differences with seasonality, holidays, back to school, and parents wondering how to engage. But that's also how they're engaging the advertising and the marketing out there too. So it's been an exciting time, and so much more of this commerce moving online. As you said, it's led to us bringing in a lot more data. Companies have a lot more data at their hands now, so they have a lot more capability to really find value in that data or make value out of that data.
Right.
With the move to digital, we're finding a much more closed loop environment, that the purity in our data is so much stronger. So the learning is better. We're seeing these trends where we've never gone through a cultural shift like we have over the past year. And those behaviors aren't going to bounce back to where they were. We're going to be, different for many, many years now. It's going to have some continuity to it. And it's looking at those behavioral shifts and how they alter marketing, how they alter communications, how they alter creativity and humor and pop culture for the years to come. I think that's where we're going to get an incredible amount of learning.
Yeah, and exactly. And also, like you said, we're getting that data. We're getting so much more data from those channels. And one of the great benefits of the data we're getting now, because it is online, it is, the attribution is much better. It's much clearer. We know it, we know someone's clicked through. We know we bought it. We can follow that journey. Whereas offline, when it was such a larger portion offline, there was a lot less ability to have that direct relationship between, the action of that audience and the outcome that we get from it. So this has been, a huge boom from that.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Going back many, many years in the AT&T days, we kind of had our own, I'll call it our small, what we call big data today, I think was big data we were doing then, which was we had 95% market share. That's all in our database. So we can analyze those people. We had monthly tracking studies with vulnerability assessments. So we knew who was poised to leave. Every bit of advertising was direct response in some way. Yeah. We had 800 numbers attached there. We had huge direct mail programs, direct marketing programs, different cultures, different languages. So the modeling we were able to do, and was remarkable. And what we were under government consent decrees, so we could not be as nimble as our competitors in those days to give them an advantage. So what we did was we automated our data modeling for vulnerability at that time. So each week we would have a list prepared whether we needed it or not, and we could go out in the marketplace and respond. We set up printing, programs so we could get out quickly. The envelopes were ready, our size was ready. This was the early stage of automation that we were able to put together to be efficient in a competitive environment, to force you to change your behaviors and be smarter and be nimble. The biggest problem most people have is lack of decision making, not making the wrong decision.
Was that a woe is AT&T right there, that the AT&T couldn't compete with the little guys? They weren't as nimble. Is that a woe for AT&T? That's funny.
Obviously, back when the long distance company was split up, it's since gone away. Competition is there, market share is a little more balanced than it was, and the traditional long distance business is gone anyway. It's all mobile now.
I was in that business back at MFS when the divestiture happened. That's when I got into telecom. So, our paths keep crossing back in those days, the early 90s.
Lots of stories from there, that's for sure. But it was fun. Yeah, and you can see
how we dealt with data back then was just so different. My first web company was back in 98, 99. And, we had such minimal data to work from back then. The analytics were they just weren't there for the most part in many cases, especially for smaller businesses or, the new ones to the internet. And, as the web development company, we had our designers and we were making decisions on creative. We were making decisions on red, blue, and all these other things, pretty much based on assumptions. And we didn't know better until we got it out there and we see a reaction. But the cost of that transformation, say, oh, it didn't work, so let's redevelop and go back out there and try again with a different way of presenting this information out to users. Time, money, churned in all that time. Well, we made mistakes and learned, and now look where we are today. I mean, we can simulate now what our audience is going to do, how they're going to perceive it, what they like, what they dislike, before we've launched.
Things that took months at a time, we can do instantly now.
Yeah.
And I took, a year of tracking studies. All the raw data, downloaded it into Excel, one of the first versions of Excel. And I learned how many rows you can get in Excel at that time because I maxed it. And then I had to parse everything so it would work. And then I created indexed it against the mass market to prove how much funding each individual market segment could be, because I could measure them in mutually exclusive roles. And that allowed me to actually grow the funding for particular segments that were underfunded before. And when you're dealing with billions upon billions of revenue at risk, people listen.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right. It's funny, though. I'll say one word that brings us right back to those days: hits. Remember when hits was everything everybody was caring about? It was 1 million hits. And that's been lost in the wash over years. There's nothing.
There are people going to listen to this that are going to go, "What are you geezers talking about?
What are you talking about?
Are you going to start talking to us about when the wheel became round and stuff? Is that what you're going to talk about?"
Right. But here's the thing I'd like to pose for all of you too, especially as we're kind of start getting towards the end of just kind of intro in our new show here is, okay, we've got all this. So why are they stalking us? Why has analytics become more of a black box stalker than our grandparents used to know each other, know people, know their customers, and it was an affinity towards each other. What happened?
Yeah.
Well, who says we don't?
Well, we do, but the problem is that now I get ads from things I've already purchased, and they just keep on a loop. Or hey, I think you want to buy this, but I didn't volunteer it. So, how can we get to that place of affinity between the advertisers and us as the consumers?
So here's one of my hangups as a marketer, is just because you can measure it doesn't mean you should. And I see so many companies get caught up in the micro measurements that they lose track of the macro measurements. And that's wrong. And people hide behind data that tells a story they want told. We can make data tell any story you want, given enough variables. You've got to have a vision to lead. You've got to understand where your business is going, and you've got to understand the relationship you want to have with your customers. Otherwise, you can just hide behind the data and blame somebody else. And that doesn't work for me in any of the businesses I've been involved in.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, Mike. It's that micro side of things, because we see that a lot too. People want, they've invested all this time and energy in creating their user personas or their ideal customers and how they're gonna engage them and all that sort of stuff. And they've got this nailed down to the micro level. But what they didn't do at the beginning, and this is what we're seeing in AI is a great tool for, is figuring out from the audience what actually generates demand to begin with and starting there instead. And that's a fairly high level. That's the things that are at the high level that should be informing the strategy at the CMO level. Then from there, we work out the tactics, but we're almost doing it the opposite way right now. We're going right granular into this persona that says it's, she's 42, she's studied at Berkeley, she has 2 kids and a dog. Now we know who our customer is. But just a minute, what was the customer demand?
Vance, you're also assuming that people are logical.
Yeah.
We're not.
That's the problem.
We're not logical. We don't all follow the same rules. There's quite a bit of randomness to us. And, a good AI platform will understand that and find those anomalies, that we are not all sheep. We're not all doing the same thing. We don't all respond the same, that there are pockets, and, behavior is far more important than demographics, the psychographics of a person, the behaviors, how they respond. There's so many more variables. And I think we tried to limit ourselves to make things simple before, and we're far more complex and stubborn than we imagined.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I agree. So with that being said, I just wanted to kind of launch this. I'm very excited about where we're going to go with this show. I think this is going to be something that we can be doing looking forward to every Thursday. And then on top of that, what I'd like to also say is we're going to have a spillover show where we'll actually be on the Clubhouse app. So if you're on the Clubhouse app, feel free to follow me. I'm InterLife Online. Follow Mike, which is Mike Tankel, Vance, which is Vance Reavie, and then, of course, Scott, which is his name is not even relevant, but it's BST Blue Skies. But we're going to be on the Clubhouse and look for
relevant.
I'm sorry?
Did you say my name wasn't relevant?
It's very relevant, but BST. I'm going to start calling you BST like the band, like a Korean boy band.
It's best.
I'm trying to pivot. I thought AI was, artificial insemination. I thought we were going to talk about cows and the population, the methane gas, and then we get twisted into this whole AI thing. I don't know what we're doing.
Dude, I thought it was just BS.
Yeah.
Well, it can be. It depends, especially if you're letting me talk.
So the program will change to being about BS about artificial insemination. So that's going to be great for the questions next week.
Great for the questions. And so
my dad's a farmer. He might want to join.
Yes. So, hey, thanks everybody. I know that we, live. We're going to be doing this live, but also we'll be taking we'll have I wanted to go a little old school, so I actually created like this hotline, so you can leave texts and voicemails because I love those call-in shows. So I do have a phone number 828-565-1188 where you can actually, if you want to be a guest on the show, or if you have a question to pose. And if you want to be that digital native that wants to do it the way everybody else does, we will be on Mixcloud, Instagram, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, LinkedIn, all of them. So we'll be posting some of that stuff. So be looking for us. But with that being said, did you guys have any parting wisdom for everybody? Like Vance, what is your goodbye message before we get out of there?
Get over the technology part of it. We're not going to worry about that. It's not going to be about the math. It's not going to be about how you code it. And it's not going to be about the data scientists. It's going to be about how we use it, how we benefit from it, what we want to learn from it.
Nice. And you and Scott?
Change is good. This is good. This is good stuff. Making educated decisions. That's a good thing.
Right. And Mike?
Making decisions is a good thing, period. Don't not make them. And, I will know we've made it the day that Sal and Richard try to call into our show.
Awesome. So that is going to be our pledge from our own. So that's when we know that this has become something when I already have some influences. I also want in there too, but yeah, we'll announce those later. But anyway, thank you so much, all of you. I'm very excited. So February the 4th, 4 p.m. Eastern time, 1 p.m. Pacific. We will be doing this again. This is AI Strategy for CMOs. Saying goodbye.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Peace.